Good afternoon, OIT family. This is your favorite online host, better than the other hosts that we have. I'm not mentioning names, but it rhymes with Bay. Sean Lardo, VP of Partner Development here at OITVOIP. Have a great hour coming up here for you all. Thank you for joining. It is going to be fantastic. I don't want to get too much into me. I want to bring on one of my favorite people. I got a couple people here to come in, so you guys will really have a good time. But I want everybody to give a warm welcome to our account manager. Look at him, there he is, Matthew Connolly.
How's it going, Sean? Thanks for having me.
You know what? Thank you for being part of it. And also, I want to thank you for shaving your face. You look fantastic.
Well, you know, I figured I would just leave the scruff a little bit, but after seeing how great your beard's looking, I knew I wouldn't be able to compete with it, so I decided to take it off.
You know what? My beard does look good. Thank you for the compliment, but not to take away from this man right here at the bottom of the screen, the Rose, Keith. You know, that beard is epic. But I'm gonna get there, Matt. I'm gonna get there, Matt. Don't worry. I'm gonna keep up with Keith at some point. So, yeah, I did call you Bay, Ray. Well, no, I didn't call you Bay. I said rhymes with Bay. So if you take it's you, it's you. Anyway, without further ado, though, I don't want to get too off track here. Brought Matt on to be involved in the conversation for his first ever live webinar, so this should be really fun. But I do now want to bring on our person of the hour, and I'm adding her right now. We brought on Carolyn April from CompTIA, the Senior Director of Industry Analysis. Hello, Carolyn.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am doing well. We're starting to get some snow here in New Hampshire. Otherwise, hanging in there.
Absolutely great. So thank you for being part of this. I know you guys are probably ridiculously hectically busy end of year like the rest of us.
Indeed. I'm hoping for a little bit of a slowdown once, maybe after next week. Then things get a little bit more holiday-ish, I guess.
Holiday-ish? Have you seen my background? I mean, it's kind of holiday-ish already. I've been putting it together. So that's what, when you have an 11-year-old daughter, everything gets decorated in the whole house. I have garland all through the house. It's amazing.
Oh, that's nice. I've got a nice tree up. We're the real live tree people here in New England. It's sort of no fake trees are allowed. So it smells good, and my cat sleeps under it every night, which is very endearing. So.
Absolutely. Oh, look, you already got a compliment here from Oscar Rodriguez. He enjoyed your last webinar.
Well, thank you, Oscar. I appreciate that.
Right?
I have no idea what it was. The last one with you guys? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. You only do webinars with us, I thought. I don't.
Exclusive. Yeah, that's right. We have an exclusive arrangement. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're that important. So today is going to be a really good talk, considering everything. We're going to talk about the 2021 IT industry outlook, which I don't know about you, but we have for the last year, because of everything that has transpired, and we know we're not going to talk terribly too much about the obvious, which we had COVID happen. But we saw a huge pivot in everything that people were doing and just uncertainty. So I think that this is a great topic because everybody's waiting for that magical 12 p.m. to go into the next day, the next year, and I think things are going to change. But I think it's great to hear from guys like you, experts like you guys that actually do the research.
Great. Thank you. Well, let me know if I should kick off here, since I think I'm in control of the slide.
You are, yeah. I've given you all control, Carolyn. You are in charge.
All right.
We're ready when you are.
Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to give a very brief overview of the IT market, which is a moving target, as we all know. I won't belabor the COVID discussion, but it does wrap itself around everything that we're going to talk about today. And I probably don't need to tell any of you that. We'll talk a little bit about some of the growth expectations that channel firms have and IT pros. For the second year in a row, we have done this study, not just of solution provider type companies in the indirect channel, but also we have conducted a survey, a joint one that goes out to IT professionals, which is a big focus of CompTIA. So we're talking anyone who works in the CIO's office at a company that you might be selling to. So to get their impressions of where things are going, and that hopefully will help inform your business decisions moving forward, or how you're going to be able to appeal to them. And then the big part of this is we're going to talk about industry trends. We do this every year. We come up with 10 trends. We try to prognosticate and be the smart people who decide what might be important in 2021. And I will be the first one to tell you that predictions about next year are a little bit shaky, but we're going to do our best. And I think that there's some good insights for many of you who are listening today.
Awesome.
Yeah, so let's start up with, this is just a big macro picture of what the global tech industry looks like today in terms of spend. And I have 2 points. The 5.0 trillion dollars is a decrease, and that's not surprising. It was 5.3 last year, and every year that I've been tracking this, this is IDC data, and it's not CompTIA data. Every year I've been tracking this, it has been on an upward trajectory. This is the first year in my experience that it's gone down, 100% attributable to the pandemic.
Do you think it's because of businesses? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here too. One thing is, I think something that we see is that, and I would have thought personally even that changing people's work environments, working from home would have given you more audience, more market share to sell to, because now, as opposed to having one office you've already supported, they're now buying additional technologies, and plus you can see hardware's been sold out on everywhere for a long time. I would have thought that would have probably lended it to a higher number.
100% agree that the abrupt move to remote working was in some corners a silver lining to the pandemic. They were able to benefit. Many hardware resellers were able to benefit, and vendors, MSPs in particular, were really called upon because companies, we work in the tech industry, right? So yes. Most of us understand that, the remote work environment is just part and parcel of what many of us do. I work full time from home, and I have for the last 25 years. I was one of those new people that did it. But for an industry that was not used to this has been like a jarring thing, and they've needed to bring in expertise to help them manage, secure, deal with equipment, all of that. And so, to your point, yes. Now, would that offset the bigger picture of what the pandemic has done? I don't think so. But on a good note, the tech industry, if you look at the numbers, has fared far better than many other industries out there. So yes, there was a dip in spend this year, but it pales in comparison to some of the other industries out there.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing I want to point out on this, and we'll move ahead, is that what we are seeing, like the U.S. is hold that 33% has been pretty steady on spend on IT, but we are seeing tremendous growth in Asia Pacific, and that's one area in particular, China, where we are seeing those numbers, because we look at these numbers every single year, have gone up, tick, tick, tick. So something to keep an eye on if you are a business that sells globally, that may be a market that could be lucrative for you. This is just basic categories of the tech industry. I like to look at this because I want to see where are people selling, where are they spending their money, and it's fairly balanced. But what we have seen is an uptick in the IT and business services category. So a lot of channel firms are moving almost exclusively, some of them, to services and selling on that alone, and not taking title to products and not getting transactional in that way. And they want to sort of, cement an ongoing relationship with customers. That means that they're helping manage their business and helping them manage their decisions about technology. So that's something to really point out. The other one to point out, go ahead.
I was going to jump in. Actually, Keith had mentioned in comments that there's a huge opportunity into integration, as many verticals are seeing consolidation.
Absolutely. Integration has always been sort of a bedrock thing that the channel does, but it is even more important today. We have so many solutions out there. So many things are either on premise or in the cloud, which makes integration even more important. So if you've got a whole bunch of workloads in the cloud, but you still have, as most companies do, a lot that is contained on premise, tying all that together as opposed to having a bunch of silos and making it work is a huge opportunity. So Keith, I don't know who Keith is, but Keith is right.
Keith is our residential genius that doesn't work with us, but somehow is the sixth man of our company in every single webinar we do.
I love Sixth Men. I'm a Boston girl, so I grew up in Boston in the 80s. Kevin McHale was the best sixth man out there.
I can't argue that, actually. But if you start talking about sports, Keith will start talking about the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't want to start crying, and it's a really big mess.
Okay, we won't go there because
they're going to consolidate their team, Dallas with Houston, I think, or something, because they're both very bad teams. Anyway, enough about that, though.
Yeah. So, services is a big deal. The other piece, and this again is IDC data, is emerging technology. So it's 13% of the industry thus far. And we talk about it so much, and still a very small piece of what people sell. But the one thing to remember about emerging tech is that it actually crisscrosses all of the other categories that we see here. So, the software incorporates certain types of emerging technology. So it's very hard to delineate between all of these areas. I mean, hardware is easy. It's hardware. But things like emerging tech and software and services are all kind of blend together. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're thinking about how things break out. So this goes to our study. So we asked, this is based specifically on the channel companies that we talked to, is, what are you thinking about that's going to impact growth in 2021, either in a positive way or a negative way? And I won't go through this entire slide because it will take forever. And again, I'll let you know that these slides are totally available to anyone who wants them.
We will post them.
Yeah, so fire away, let them go. Yes, so you don't have to listen to me talk for too long.
No, we'll jump in. Again, we always encourage questions. We always encourage interaction because we know this is for the audience to learn. And I actually like this slide, though. When you talk about the factors that could impact 2021 growth, and you and I touched this before we got on the call here, is, yeah, it's great and all that we know where it's coming from, but responsibilities to an MSP and how they promote their business and how they solve problems. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to cover that a little bit later on too, but do you consider that to be a major reason of impact, is make sure they address it the right way?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the most savvy, and I will talk about this later, but the most savvy MSPs out there have learned that the way to win new customers is to market themselves. And I always say this, and I feel bad sometimes saying it, but a lot of solution providers and MSPs they obviously got into the business because of their love of technology, and they're good at it, very good at it. And some of them are good at sales, or they learn sales on the go. But many of them just completely disregarded marketing at all. Like it wasn't part of the stool. I think like the 3-part stool, and because a lot of that was they were tied to vendors who helped them do that, and they led with that. And we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. That's not the case anymore, and many, and encouragingly so, in our data over the last 3 years, I would say, many solution providers and MSPs have put resources into marketing. They've decided this is serious. Maybe we should hire a marketing person, even a half-time marketing person, sure, and start to brand around our reputation and around our capabilities, as opposed to branding around the vendor that we work with.
What about, and because you specialize in the channel, vendors, and impacting the growth of partners, the MSPs, are you, how do you see that measuring up? How do you see the relationship being between them? Has it changed? Has it improved? Has it gotten worse? Is it beneficial? What is it?
Well, it's certainly changed. I think the balance of power, which I will talk about later, it's one of the big trends that we have. The balance of power has shifted, but not meaning it's gone from you had power and we didn't, and now it's reversed. It's just more balanced. And I think that it's still a very important relationship, but I do think that the shift to cloud computing has really altered the landscape, with less on-premise equipment and things going into a company where they would see the label and the brand and know what they're buying, and more things abstracted into the cloud. This very much changes the landscape, where it is the partner who needs to do the marketing and the branding and is the face to the customer.
And
Absolutely.
to that point too, Caroline, would you say, since it is more so the technology partners marketing themselves rather than the vendors, are you seeing like a lot more diversification across what vendors they're choosing to work with?
Oh, 100%. There's so many choices now. I mean, the cloud landscape alone has mushroomed the number of vendors who are out there. If you're in the SaaS world, for instance, I mean, how many different ISVs are creating some sort of application that they're able to disseminate over the cloud? And so the days of working with 4 different platform providers, and I can name names, but I think you all could know who they are, the giants of technology, have changed so much that customers have a hard time trying to figure out what they want, who they want to work with. And it's put the channel in a very interesting position where they are the ones that are able to vet and decide who is best among this myriad number of vendors who are now out there, who is best for their particular customer and whatever need they have. So it's a very interesting time where it's no longer you're choosing from 3 big guys to decide who you're going to work with. It's a completely different environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, interestingly, but not really, is that, what people worry about going ahead is continued COVID effects. We were not shocked by that number, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that we don't have those. We hope that, the vaccination thing goes well.
Look who jumped in here with us, TC Doyle. Haven't talked to him in quite some time. He actually mentioned with as much as 40% of the white-collar knowledge workforce expected to work permanently from home after the pandemic, can MSPs effectively develop new practices to cater to home workers, given how many different devices, broadband, software, suites, work from home workers use? That's a great question.
Well, it is, and I think I talked about that a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the, and I'm loath to say silver linings in the pandemic, but it happens to be one of them. And we've seen that in some of our data that, MSPs have been called upon by some companies who aren't in the tech industry and are not used to having a huge remote workforce, and they had to turn to it overnight. And you're sending people home, like we all have our technology set up, those of us who work at home, but
sure,
you can't make assumptions about every type of worker, that they have the correct equipment, that they have broadband and Wi-Fi that is sufficient. And so MSPs have been able to benefit in terms of helping those companies make sure that their employees are well set up, and not just on the hardware side, but the other component is security. Security is a big deal. So all of a sudden you're sending workers home, and and you're putting them on VPNs that they may never have used before, or whatever it happens to be. All of that needs to be managed. So it is a big opportunity and a big job for a lot of MSPs to be able to help their customers who are not accustomed to having a large remote workforce deal with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, actually, and for Matt also, we've been working hybrid for years and remote. So when this all took place, it was really no change to us as far as the day-to-day. But even with me working from home for as many years as I have, let's get away from even the broadband and software. Even the most mundane things like I have to make sure I have lighting because I'm on video all day now, right? Which I never thought about. So obviously that's not technology we're talking about, but like you said, it's hard to assume that everybody's prepared for work from home, or if there's even a set process or resources that you should have when you work from home. It's kind of like I know a lot of people are winging it. They're like, oh, I need this now. I need to go order this. Like what? I mean, 6 months ago there wasn't a single webcam to buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think with that too, I know I've ran into situations where the end customer is even suggesting technologies to the partner that they want to be implementing. So I feel like having a good understanding of the technology that they're using and coming with that solution is definitely something that is an advantage for the technology industry.
Yeah, I think the final point I'd want to make is I don't think we see a return to, and I'm going to get to this in my next trend, but I don't think we see a return to the way it was I think the remote work phenomenon is going to be permanent, not for everybody, obviously, but for a larger portion of the workforce than it was formerly. And so the adjustments to that are going to have significant impact on technology providers, technology professionals, any of those who work in the industry and need to be able to help and support those workers.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I won't belabor this. We can move on. I'm sorry. I know we were going down a rabbit hole real quick. So
Okay.
let's get back to what you're here to present.
I told you we weren't going to get through all these slides today. No way.
That is fine. And just for everybody to understand, if we're not going to get through all the slides. Carolyn just said it. We agreed on it. We already agreed prior to the call that we knew we wouldn't, but we will post this everywhere for you to get. It'll be on our social. We'll put it in this chat in a minute here, the link for it, so you guys will have access to it. And by all means, if you have questions, you can always reach out. You can ask during this meeting, but you can also ask after the fact. We always run socials, and we always answer questions on Reddit, Facebook, whatever. Okay. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right. Should I move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. We're gonna move on. All right, sorry. We're gonna talk about. We do this every year. We're going to talk about 10 trends, and of course, we're not going to get through all 10. But I'll try to breeze through a few of them because we've actually dived into this conversation a little bit and touches on some of them, so we don't need to reiterate.
Sure.
But the main trend here, our theme for this year was rebuilding for the future, not the past, because a lot of companies had a real awful year. And they may be thinking, what I'd like to do in 2021 is get back to level set. And what we are suggesting is their opportunity for you to rebuild ahead for the future. And we've seen a lot of companies actually speed up their efforts to digitalize their company during this horrible 2020 that we've been going through. They've had to deal with changes in employee locations and workforce that we just talked about. And so our message is there's no normal. We're starting from scratch here a little bit for a lot of companies. But what the learning has been from what we've gone through is flexibility and resilience. So build your business around the ability to be flexible and adapt. Because if you're very rigid and you have like this incredible structure in place, and that sounds like something you're supposed to, you're not going to be able to pivot when something horrible happens. So this is what we mean by there is no normal. So we're trying to encourage companies to be flexible and malleable, and that way they're able to change on a dime if they have to, which a lot of companies did in this past year.
Perfect. I think what we noticed for one thing is we found a lot of community groups open up for MSPs to help each other. Mm-hmm. And you're right about the adversity was happening and just trying to figure out things, take away the technology aspect, but even these MSPs trying to stay in business originally and looking into loans and looking into everything that was going on. So with the creation of these groups, it was great to watch. It was great to see that a lot of people I saw early in the year that were stressing and wondering where they were going to be, at the end of the year. We still see a lot of these guys, these men and women here now. They're actually watching this right now too, which is awesome. And they're involving themselves, and they've all helped each other, which, like, the MSP community is a great family as far as I'm concerned. They all take care of each other.
Yeah, no, there's been so many like Zoom things set up by the various MSP groups. And the solidarity has been really impressive. And I think that helps everybody. And with us all being isolated right now for the most part, reaching out and I mean, I've called people that I haven't talked to in years, so just on a personal level, so I 100% agree with you that maybe we got away from realizing that those connections are so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I got a couple of data slides. So the way the structure works here is that I'm going to introduce a trend, and then I've got a few data slides from various studies that we've done to try to underscore what the trend is. This data slide comes from the IT Pro survey that we did. So these are IT professionals, and we wanted to ask them about budget and what it was going to look like next year after the year that they had been through. And as you can see here, it's pretty much going to remain the same. And That is different from studies we've seen in the past, where on the positive side, they expected to spend much more. So I think people are very cautiously optimistic right now, and that's it. It's like hold steady, keep your head above water, and then we'll see where we are. Maybe Q2, Q3, but right now I don't think anyone is going to be spending too much money. And that's just reality. So it's good to know if you're a channel firm who's trying to sell into companies that they are going to be much more cautious.
Absolutely.
As far as the channel companies go, I wanted to ask a question about how this past year, the pandemic impacted them. And you can see here, nearly 2/3 said it had some sort of negative effect. That's big. Statistically speaking, that's actually a pretty big number. And I would say a lot of that goes to the fact that channel firms tend to be very small themselves. I mean, like 90+% of channel firms are very small businesses. They have maybe 10 employees. They're under $1 million in revenue. And their customers, as a result, tend to be very small customers. And small businesses have been hit bad this past year. And that would be, a major indicator of why some of these channel companies have suffered so much.
We see so, and to add to that, we, with a lot of our partners, MSP, the MSPs that we partner with, we noticed that the ones that struggled were the ones that focused and catered towards the restaurants, bars, hospitality.
Not a good industry. We always encourage vertical. Get into a vertical and specialize, but
that might change after this year.
Maybe. Are you going to, I don't know, but it's sad. I mean, but it's,
right.
It's true that hospitality is not the place you wanted to be as your specialty this year.
Absolutely.
Sure.
No, it's not. And even office space now too, because like us in Pittsburgh, we've had a lot of development here. People opened up a lot of offices have been built along the river, and now those offices that were supposed to be humongous with, thousands of people working there are now, the developers are revisiting what they're doing now because they don't want large gatherings. They don't want large groups. People are nervous about it. So that changes even that too.
Oh, I think the commercial real estate market is going to be permanently altered.
I would agree.
Yeah, for sure.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have a giant, beautiful office at CompTIA, and people are welcome to go there right now, but it's going to change. I think we're going to be doing more, using it as a space for other groups to come in and hold meetings and things of that nature when it gets safe again, because the 100% return to work, I do not believe is going to happen.
No, I would agree. Well, I think I saw some trends that showed that I forget where the study came from, but it showed that within the next 2 years, 75% of the workforce would work hybrid.
Yeah.
So that's a significant number for sure.
It's very significant. I mean, like I said earlier, in the tech industry, it's fairly common, right? At CompTIA, everybody gets 2. If you work at headquarters, I don't, but if
Right.
Everyone gets 2 days to work at home and 3 in the office.
Right.
But that's not common across many other industries.
Not at all. No.
So, no, not at all. So that's going to be a significant, I think, permanent change going forward. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to keep moving forward in the interest of us not getting through any of these slides. No,
I know.
It's a good discussion. So cloud computing has been, on our list of like trends for, it seems like forever. And it's really down on the trend list now, is because it's sort of an established platform. It's an established way that many of us are doing business. But what we're thinking about now is companies going cloud first and making that their consideration, especially new companies when they're launching, their consideration when they decide to build their infrastructure and decide what technology they're going to buy or lease or purchase or whatever it happens to be, and moving beyond the obvious. So that would be my key takeaway here, is moving beyond the obvious of we have Office 365, as our cloud solution, and moving to more sophisticated solutions, and also thinking that that you will put even more critical things, mission critical, that are inside your organization into the cloud and have a trust factor there. So that's what we mean by cloud is king. Cloud is sort of the internet now, right?
And
Absolutely.
right. And with that cloud first approach, are you seeing more businesses that might be opening today kind of taking more of a cloud exclusive approach to have more flexibility to do work from home and everything?
Well, it's interesting that you said that because we actually make a delineation between cloud first and cloud exclusive. We do not believe that companies are going to, most are going to go cloud exclusive. There's always going to be something that they want, gated within their organization, whether it's rational or not rational, right?
Right.
But more companies are going to be thinking cloud first, in our estimation, than in the past. This is going to be the first option they consider before they decide what to do. And I think there's no going back from that. I think we've kind of like, the horse is out of the barn kind of thing. Yep. All right. I never know if you guys are going to ask me a question.
I'm trying to step back from questions because I do want you to get at least through 5 slides.
Yeah, all right. Well, all right. Then I will not belabor this one. This is just the type of cloud software that our solution provider respondents said that they're offering today. The top 3 are very obvious. It's productivity apps and communications and collaboration. What we're doing right now with collaboration, I've been living in cloud collaboration tools all year with all the webinars I've been doing. But what I'd like to point out is those bottom 3, marketing, finance, and HR, those are departmental areas that are clearly, there's a lot more opportunity there. They're not selling those. I'm surprised, frankly, at this data that only 10% of solution providers say they sell a cloud version of HR software. I mean, I that's what we use. I was really shocked. So from a business perspective and an untapped revenue perspective, those 3 at the bottom are things that if you're looking for a new area to get into, start thinking about selling apps in those 3 buckets.
Perfect.
All righty.
I was just going to say, I think that adds to the point that we were talking about earlier about coming up with a solution, not just focusing on the technology product itself and really bringing a full solution together for your customers to really support all their operations.
Yep, I would agree with you 100%. Understanding individual business function areas it goes part and parcel with what I said about business consulting and how important that is. And you're going to be selling to those people because increasingly the VP of marketing is who you're going to sell to, or finance or HR versus the IT department. So understanding the vernacular of their operations and how to talk to them effectively is going to be very important moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so customers. This is a good segue. Customers are changing. Customers are more demanding. Customers know more about technology. Different kinds of customers are the ones who are going to be your buyers. You're not just doing the IT thing where you go in and talk speeds and feeds, and I've said that ad nauseum, but it's true. And so we did a study earlier this year about customer experience. Because many customers today, there's so many different flavors of how customers want to interact with potential providers and then ongoing providers who deal with them in technology. And we kind of call that the omni-channel approach if you're in marketing, but it's how you communicate. Communication is really important to a lot of customers. And some still want to do the old school pick up the phone as long as somebody actually answers and you're not stuck in some horrible, loop of recorded messages. I fall into that camp. Sometimes I just want to pick up the phone. I want someone to answer my question, right away. But there are others in different generations, especially, who would much prefer to have all of their interactions, happen over social media, instant messaging, you name it, or they want it in various formats all at once. And with our study, we found that, channel companies have been struggling with this in order to provide that ultimate customer experience, which largely pertains to how you communicate and how you respond and how you provide support, right?
Sure.
And that's going to be incredibly important going forward.
So I posted on her from Keith. He actually said a little bit before he even came to this conversation, he said, "I'm not sure cloud is the best term to use in sales to your clients."
No, you don't sell cloud.
No.
No.
You sell a
I always
solution.
say you don't sell the internet. Hey, I'm here to sell you the internet. You know, you just don't. And cloud has reached that point where you don't need to talk about it. It doesn't have a monetary value attached to it where you're going to go in and say, hey, it costs you. I mean, you're selling maybe an application and that has a monetary element attached to it. But no, Keith, again, I don't know you, but you're right.
Jen Ogle says you do know Keith. It's just he's hiding behind his beard. So
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just so I don't know. Maybe there's a story behind that which we don't even know anything about. But
I can't see anything. I'm just looking at my slide. All your faces are hidden from me. I'm just talking into the ether here.
Perfect. That's good.
Yeah. So, Keith, well, get in touch with me afterwards. So I apologize if I said you were a stranger to me. I didn't mean that.
You're not lying when you use the word strange, but no. So I think but I want to touch a little more on this real quick, and then we'll move on. But communication is crucial, right? It's the way you approach, it's the way you present it. Mm-hmm. It's also the way you speak. Translation is key. Like you said, you don't sell the internet. What do you sell? What do you talk about? You talk about use case. You talk about the issues they have. Mm-hmm. And you know, I did a webinar yesterday, and we talked about how to sell VoIP, of course. And it was really about teaching people how to ask questions to see what they're trying to do as a business. Right. Like we already know what a phone is. We already know phone services. Yes. When people say I'm gonna sell you tone, like I'm thinking like my daughter has a bad attitude. I can't stand her tone right now. That's how you know. And again, so it's really important that we talk about this and at some point and everybody address it that they need to speak what they're actually here to talk about. Like what makes you valuable to me as an MSP? What are you going to help me with? And speak in English, not techies.
Yeah, you need to understand the language of the people that you're talking to, and I don't mean actual language like Spanish or whatever. Talking about the business vernacular, if you will, that people use, and if you sell to a specific vertical, understanding their language, which is mm-hmm. Very different. If you're in the manufacturing business, your language is very different from those in the healthcare industry, so it's good to be able to have those conversations. This isn't easy stuff. I mean, it requires quite a bit of training and quite a bit of experience to be able to provide this kind of customer exchange and experience that they are going to enjoy. And it requires actual communication. And I can't hammer that word down more than I already have, but it's very important.
Absolutely.
These are some of the things that we found in our study that channel firms are doing to improve how they provide customer experience. And the top one makes you think, retrain technical staff. What does that mean? Because we're talking about communications and soft skills type things here. Well, that's exactly what it means. It doesn't mean retraining technical staff to learn a new product or a new technology. It's about retraining them so that they can actually customer face. Is they're no longer in the back room, and you want them to be able to have a conversation with a potential customer, an existing account that is relatable. So that's really important. I won't go through all of these. Again, slides are available, but being flexible in terms of the types of ways that you approach customers. So letting them have a point of entry with you the way that they want, whether, like I said before, that's instant messaging, chat bots, whether they want to pick up the old-fashioned phone and call you, whatever it happens to be flexible. And then the last one I'll hit on is redesign your website. I say this over and over again, but so many MSPs and solution providers have websites that you just don't even know what they do when you go to them. I don't mean to be derogative, but it's true.
Are you saying they shouldn't? The front page of their website shouldn't be their van that has their logo on it, their magnet sticker they put on there. It says Joe's computer fixer.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and I've hammered on this one for a lot of years now, and there's been slow change, but not rapid change. And that's your front. these days, that is your front end to a customer, potential customer. And if they look at a website with a van on it and it says, I do managed services, which no one understands what that is. We've been trying to change that nomenclature for a really long time. It isn't interactive, so it's just a static website. You got to fix that. You have to fix that. So that
Really? So you can't just say MSP, I'm an MSP, and they know what's happening?
they have no idea.
Oh, that's odd. I don't know why.
No idea whatsoever. So these are just some of the things that it's encouraging, because 37% of our respondents said that they're trying to change that and make their websites more intuitive, interactive, and at least make them evident about what they do as a business. So.
Back to translation, right? And I actually noticed on here too, I like that I see retrained tech staff, retrained sales staff, and also hire dedicated customer service reps. I feel like those are all interlocking, because when everybody made the pivot, like you talk about multi-device approach, your sales reps sometimes get used to talking about one thing in particular over and over and over again. Now they're forced to change what they talk about to be more dynamic.
Yep.
And again, working from home, hey, what do you have for your house? You need this, A, B, and C, whatever A, B, and C is. They got to learn about those things, talk about those things. But also the tech staff has to understand that that's been sold that way too, to be able to support them.
Yeah.
And then back to the dedicated customer service rep, that person probably ties everything in at that point.
Yep. No, all of that is important. We saw what is heartening in this data is that you're seeing more companies, like 30% is pretty high actually, hiring marketing people and social media professionals and the customer service reps. A lot of them didn't have that. I mean, if you're a 10-person company, who's devoted to those things, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is good news for the channel. I think they're getting the message. Like I spoke about a bunch in the beginning of the webinar, that you're the brand. It's no longer the vendor behind you, because it's such a cloud world today.
Sure.
So these are encouraging numbers. There's a lot of work to be had, but the fact that I think a lot of companies in their personal lives, people who work for companies, want good customer experience, and so they're realizing, well, if this is something that I demand when I go to the Apple Store and I want great customer experience, and they've somehow revolutionized that. Although that's arguable, I guess, but that I should be doing that with my company.
Sure.
And customers are going to continue to demand that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where are we going next? Okay, more channel stuff. All right. So
talk about balance. We started talking about this between vendors and partners.
Yes. So we did. And what we've seen, and again, this all is sort of, we try to keep this thematic so it sort of flows and everything relates to one another. But we have seen clearly over the last few years that the balance of power between a vendor and their army of partners has radically changed. It's gotten much more even. Whereas back in the day, I think I already said this, but correct me if I'm being too redundant, but back in the day, you were a partner who worked with and aligned yourself publicly with whoever that big platform provider was, the hardware vendor that you sold. So whether that was IBM, Microsoft on the software side, a Cisco on the networking side, whatever, HP, that's how you led with customers. You prided yourself on being, XXI certified, on being able to put that stamp that you're a platinum level partner on your business card. If you can remember business cards, I haven't carried one in years. And that has changed completely in the era of cloud and technology being abstracted. Obviously, vendors are still super important, but they're not as visible to the customer as they used to be. So now the channel has more leverage when they go to market, and they don't go to market the same way. They're, again, like I've said a couple times here, it's more about their reputation and more about their brand. And that's
Sure.
Incredibly important. And I don't think that changes. Customers are more demanding, partners have more leverage, and vendors are abstracted in the cloud. So their technology is super important still, don't get me wrong, but it changes the way the supply chain works and the way the marketing model works.
Absolutely. And that makes sense. So, and are you noticing a larger, so when we talk about the reputation of the vendor, the reputation as a partner of the partner also, are you seeing a larger investment from vendors with their partners in general?
Well, one of the things that we've seen is that the way that programs are structured has had to change dramatically. Is the partners are different. There's all these new types of partners. Again, the ones I refer to that don't even sell anything. They don't sell something. You know, they're consultants, they're influencers and referral partners, and they will, you know, provide quite a bit of business for a vendor. But what they value in a partner program, and we've done studies on this, are not the same thing as the old school programs. So in many cases, they could care less about, obviously, volume discounts and rebates and things that hardware partners were more interested in. And so a lot of vendors who I speak with are seriously trying to figure out how to revamp their programs to accommodate these newer type of partners who in the future are going to make up a big part of the ecosystem. So that's definitely one of the big changes I see when I talk about the dynamics being more balanced. It's just not going to be the same. What is it like, you know, silver, gold, platinum, and 3-tiered programs, and
Yep.
That all is going to change because the needs and the desires and the demands of partners today are very different.
Well, I feel like those tiers were established on not very standardized metrics. When companies do it, there's not one. I've seen with vendors when they put together the tiers of platinum, gold, diamond, whatever they do, you know, there's not really a set, really defined metrics that's really flushed out with it. It's basically who sells the most for them. That's basically the one metrics that usually stands out at what level of partnership you are.
Yeah. You know, the managed partners, the ones who get the CAMs, right?
Yep.
You know, the bigger partners. A lot of that is just obsolete right now.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we expect at CompTIA that is going to continue to be the case. It's not easy though. I'm not kidding. I've talked to vendors who struggle. They're struggling to figure out what is the right type of program. Because more and more partners actually want less, they need less.
Sure.
And so it's hard to figure out what kind of incentives and what kind of requirements that you want to have for partners. And I don't think that that's going to be solved in 2021. I think it's going to be an ongoing issue, but
right. Do you foresee, we have like 9 minutes, so I know we got like a tenth of your deck, but a question of this though, that it makes me think about is, are you thinking, and I don't know if CompTIA has really thought about doing research on this or not, but it'd be a great thing to know is vendors with what we talked about before about not having large gatherings, not having large offices anymore. Do you think that they are going to start focusing more on channel, because then you have an indirect sales team, marketing team outside of you? That way you want to have a small team to manage the many.
That's an interesting question, to be honest with you. And I could see that dynamic actually developing.
It takes away liability from them.
It does.
It puts them in a position of like, they don't have to, they still get their name out, and they only have to hire people that can work just like you and I work remote, and I can manage my partners from wherever I am is irrelevant. And so more investment on the enablement of partners, less on the large, heavy staff of a vendor that they used to have.
Yeah, I agree. I could see the big, channel account manager, marketing groups shrink. I could see that happening for sure. And then, you could shrink that down and then manage your partners in a different way, because in many respects, they're managing themselves. So I think that certainly could be part of what we see as this whole relationship morphs. And I think it's going to continue to morph in the future. So yeah, I agree with you. I
see every now and again, Matt, I have a good point.
Yeah.
Every now and again, let's not. All right, but let's go with deck. We have 7 minutes, so I figure we got 4 minutes left of your deck only, because you've covered so much of it already.
All right. Okay, where are we at? All right. So I did a small study this year in conjunction with an outside group about the concept of partner-vendor relationships, or PX, partner experience. And given the way that things are changing, how now vendors have to pay a lot more attention to the experience that they provide the partner. And that's analogous to what I was talking about earlier about how partners have to figure out how to provide an optimal experience for their customers. Very similar. So these are some of the things that during the qualitative interviews, so we interviewed people one-on-one in the community about what their thoughts were about how this relationship needs to change. One was basic, the whole definition of partner vendor needs to be refined, and it needs to reflect all the stakeholders, whether that's customers as well, and whether that's different departmental people. It needs to reflect everybody. When it comes to elements of the relationship, like recruitment and onboarding management and retention, all of that needs to be done in a joint manner. It used to be dictated by vendors, and now it can't be. It needs to be a collaborative process. We just talked about partner programs, so I won't belabor that, but there's a lot of new priorities that go on there. We also talked about how there are so many different types of partners now, and they are definitely not in the same bucket as the more traditional partners. And so their needs and wants within a partner program, for instance, are very different. And then finally, measure things. A lot of companies don't. They have no idea whether they're doing something right or doing something wrong. And a lot of vendors don't, the partners who decide not to engage or sell a vendor's product or service, they don't pick up the phone and tell them. They just ghost, right? And if you're not measuring on a regular basis, you have no idea how many people have ghosted you. And so that's something really important to remember.
Sure. So basically what I'm hearing is that there's not a one size fits all, and you're going to have a personal approach to partners that you work with, because you don't know what their needs are going to be until you ask.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's hard. It's more investment that has to be made there. You're going away from cookie cutter, right, approach to more customized, which it was never easy for anybody to do, especially on a large scale. But that's exactly what I'm saying here.
Perfect.
All right, so we're going to talk about emerging tech. This is a big CompTIA area. We talk about it all the time. And one of the things that we try to emphasize is the fact that the emerging tech nomenclature includes so many things that actually aren't even related to one another. And I think that gets lost when you're talking to partners in particular. What does emerging tech mean? Is it Internet of Things? Is it AI? Is it VR? Is it drones, either hardware or software component of that? Is it blockchain? It's all of those things, but you have to pick pick where your expertise lies, or where you want to build your expertise, and understand that. And the other big point about emerging tech looking ahead is that you have to think of it as more of an embedded or, enablement type solution. It's not something, we keep talking about what you don't sell. You don't sell cloud, you don't sell the internet. You don't really sell some of these emerging technologies. They're baked into something else that you sell, which makes it better. It's like a feature, like a car. This car has a nav system. You're not selling the navigation system, but you're selling the car, but you can tout the navigation system. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's the point we want to try to get across, is if you're confused as a solution provider about how to get involved with emerging technology, just take a step back and realize that it's more of an enablement and embedded piece of a larger solution that you are able to build, which provides value to your customer.
Perfect. I think you can even go with, you start off with baking a cake. I mean, you buy all the ingredients, but you bake the cake, you're selling the cake, but you need everything to do it. So
yeah, you're not selling the sugar. You're not selling the butter. No.
Nope, that's a distributor. Yep, no, makes sense. Okay, so we have like 3 minutes left. So do you want to give some closing remarks on your awesomeness? Because I know we're not going to get through all the slides.
All right, we won't. So, there's some really good slides at the end, the trends. So please, I encourage you all to look at them. I'll go to takeaways. We'll just slide right over to them. And hey, I'm all about time management here. So from the first, we did get through this trend, but flexibility and resilience are going to be a key to success. We are all in a time of the unknown, and businesses that are not rigid, but are able to respond quickly and with flexibility to sudden problems, nightmares, whatever, are going to be positioned for more success than others. We didn't get to security in the trends, but it's one of the trends, and it's extremely important. It kind of blankets everything that we do. And so my one point will be that no matter what you sell, no matter what service area you're in, if you also do not have the security conversation with your customers, you're failing. Security should not be a separate thing that customers have to pursue. It should be something that comes part and parcel with what you sell and do. And so upping your skills in that area is going to be very important. And then finally, and we just talked a lot about this, so I won't belabor it, but the business relationships and the supply chain in this day and age are going to keep evolving. So the way that you may have done business and had relationships in the past, again, it kind of goes to the flexibility point. You need to realize that will change and be able to deal with it and handle it.
So it sounds like all in all, your takeaways all lead to the fact of you have to provide a complete solution as an MSP to your customers that makes sense, and not look for, almost be like the Amazon of IT to every one of your customers, and really provide the solution, period. Answer their problems and give them in English. We talked about they got to speak in English, and solve it legitimately, and then move on. That's what it sounds like, and provide customer service that makes sense.
Thank you. That was a good encapsulation of my points.
Thank you. Every now and again, I'm good at that too. See, okay, perfect. So we have a couple quick announcements, and then we'll get off the call. We're going to talk. We have some upcoming events. I don't know if Carolyn, if CompTIA is involved in these, but you guys should be. We have a lot of great MSP groups. Obviously today, talking to Carolyn, freaking awesome. Great information. We have on the 16th, we have Ray will be on with 7-Figure MSP webinar on filling gaps in your stack with additional revenue streams. Don't forget, on the 17th, the next evening, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, is the Tech Bar. Actually, Keith Nelson will be on the Tech Bar. So, Carolyn, if you want to get involved, you can come watch. It streams live. We may provide you a link, and you can say hello to Keith in person on there, and we can, kind of like reunite people. That's what we do. We will have it's a very active month for all of us getting it. And again, the reason why we're doing this is we're trying to get as much information out to the MSPs as possible, because going into the new year, well, first, you guys still resolve stuff with your existing projects and customers, but going into 2021, you got to get prepared for what's going to happen. So we actually are doing another Partner First webinar with the ComLog group. They do a ton of stuff in the industry and work with tons of IT companies. So you want to be involved in that. And then the New Year's Eve episode for the Tech Bar will be, as my people say, off the chain, lit, fire, any one of those random nomenclatures they use. But anyway, not to go any further into that, that is upcoming events. So please, everybody, be involved. We look for our community to be engaged completely and help each other. That's what we're here to do. Carolyn, well, Matt, thanks for being part of this. See you later, dude. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time with us and presenting and working with our long-winded explanations and questions. Totally appreciate your time. Thank you again.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Freaking awesome.
Thanks, Carolyn. Great having you again.
All right,
everybody.